if the Mets played even below average baseball, we're not even talking about this. We had done the math last week of like they could finish 9-10, and all these other teams would have to go like 10 games over 500 to catch them or something. And then they lost 8 games in a row. How concerned are you about where they are? They did kind of level out slightly just from the other teams losing on Saturday. They also all lost except for Arizona on Sunday, and the Mets won, so they got a little bit of distance. We're a little bit less like freaked out, but it's a legitimate race and it's more than one team. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think they're in trouble, frankly. I like I said, I do think they'll make the playoffs, but the Padres and the Cubs, man, that's going to be really, really tough. Like people ask me like, okay, so if the Mets were, going to the wild card, who do you think they would struggle with the most? I'm like, the Padres. The Padres are a problem. The way that they pitch, the way that they base run, the way that they hit for non-touchies, like this is an issue. So this 3-game set against the Padres is going to be huge. The Cubs is going to be interesting. They're playing for something. And then they have the Nationals and the Marlins. So, I mean, the Nationals and the Marlins are generally the reason why I think they're going to squeak into the playoffs. Not that the Marlins have Marlins are like kind of like they're not as bad as everyone thinks they are.
The Marlins are weird because they had that run in like the middle of the summer where the Mets didn't even have to play them, where they kind of like fake got back into it and then before they fell back out of it. But I don't know how they've done in the last week or so, but they had won 3 out of 4 against the Mets a couple weekends ago, and the like 10 games before that and the 10 games after that, they were like really bad against basically everybody else, which made it so much worse. And if you want to trigger a Mets fan, just tell them about the Mets are playing the Marlins on September 28th, because that is a day that lives in infamy for multiple seasons.
The Marlins are like the Joker of the NL East. They will just mess you up in like the weirdest way possible at the worst possible time.
But like just the Mets, like they don't really play well against anybody. They used to kind of play the Braves tough, but it's really just the Mets, and it's always
that might be a trap series. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this season wraps up. But I will say this: I can almost guarantee it's going to be dramatic. Yeah. This is not for the faint of heart. I mean, like other than the National Series, like you look at Tankathon, which is like basically they do strength of schedule, and the Mets are pretty much like kind of in the middle. Mm-hmm. Not when you like consider what are this team's strengths and what are the other team's strengths and weaknesses. So it's going to be tough. I think they'll squeak in by like maybe by a game again. It all depends on whether or not they get hot, and it's kind of ridiculous because it's going to depend on something like Pete Alonso going on like another like heater or something like that, and then leaving the Mets, which he might. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Twitter this past weekend, some people maybe want that now, and maybe it's a worthy discussion, maybe not. I don't want to talk about the offseason yet. It's coming sooner than later at this rate, but it is. I mean, it's like kind of all the adjectives. It's disheartening. It's frustrating. It's maddening, I would say, has been the main feeling I've had for several months now. I mean, I don't think I've ever experienced a season like that. I've gone through a lot. All of the Mets fans have. 2007 was the second season I ever watched. I've seen collapses more times than I would like. I can't remember a team that was starting and being the best team in baseball, at least record-wise, for 2.5 months, and then going 32-49 over their next 81 games, going from being 5 up in the division multiple times to 12 out or whatever they are now, completely playing themselves out of that, and having to compete against not only like mediocre teams that they are significantly more talented than, they are competing against 2 out of 3 teams who were sellers at the trade deadline. Yep. And again, the Giants sold to the Mets, and that's the team nipping at their heel. I've never seen anything like it. And it is insane.
No, it's pretty astounding. But it almost makes sense in a weird way. Like, if you've been following the Mets for a while, they were never supposed to be the front runners. That's not the identity of this ball club. It has never been the identity of this ball club for as long as I've been watching baseball. So throughout the late 90s, early aughts, and now they are. And like you hate to like talk about baseball as this big cosmic joke, but it's kind of like a little bit of a big cosmic joke at the minute they were like, oh, this is the favorite to win the World Series, they were like, psych, never mind. So good luck to the fans out there.
Yeah, it does seem like that's the biggest difference of the Steve Cohen era. And you've had, I mean, so many different coaches, so many different executives, different players at least on the fringes. But like it's like in the organizational DNA, they have to learn how to play with expectations every year, which, to your point, they almost never have. It's like every once in a blue moon, and a lot of those years don't go the way you think it's going to go. Even when they do, like 2015, they had expectations and they were good, and then they were really, really bad, and then they were really, really good. They're never good for the entire year and then also have a good playoff run. And then some years they just completely fall flat on their face, like 2023 or 2017. It seems like that. It's hard to like quantify that because like there's been so many different moving parts, but like it almost does feel like cosmically like there are certain organizations that it's just like burned into the fabric of what they are, no matter who is there, and something has to change. And it's not impossible. We've seen teams flip that around, and the Cubs won a World Series and maybe sent us into a horrible alternate dimension.
Pretty sure,
after that. But you look at the NFL, like we were talking before we started recording, the Buffalo Bills didn't make the playoffs for 16 years. They've now made the playoffs like 6-7 years in a row. The Kansas City Chiefs were basically the Jets, and now they're a dynasty. Even the Eagles. You can do it, but you got to do it. And it's just like we're 4 or 5 years into the Cohen thing now, and it still seems to be like an adjustment they're struggling with. And I guess I begrudgingly have to give more credit to the Yankees of like, it's hard to be the team with the target on your back and still do well. And they do it all the time. And the Mets have not yet adjusted to that at like a full organizational level.
Yeah. And I honestly kind of like grapple with the same thing because again, I am very like numbers oriented, and I like the reasonable version of like sports. Mm-hmm. But on my own podcast, I've interviewed like Sabres beat writers and Jets beat writers. And I'm like, how is it that everything can change? Personnel, ownership, everything can change, and it's still the same organization. I don't understand. Yeah. And I still haven't gotten an answer, which is kind of funny because like every post game we're asking Mendoza like, why is this happening? And he's like, nobody has an answer. I don't know. Like fair, because like nobody does.
Yeah. On my worst days, this kind of thing makes me feel like Joe Beningo of like, you could change the quarterback, you could change the uniforms, but did the same old Jets. Like it kind of feels like that sometimes. Of like
possible.
I don't know. I don't
have an answer for you. I'm sorry. I am with this team 100 games at 160, probably more than that. I don't even want to think about it. I don't know. I don't know.
If you haven't figured it out, like none of us are going to.
The players haven't figured it out, and trust me, they're literally. You walk in and they're like, you ask the same questions because at a certain point, it's just like, hey, why? Just that's all you got. Like, why? And they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Gelbs, I think Saturday after the game, he had posted a tweet that was like, the vibe and the energy in the clubhouse was perplexed. Like they have no idea why this is happening.
100% accurate. If there was one, like people like, oh, are they mad at each other? No, they're not mad at each other. Are they like, do they not care? They care a lot. They're just confused. Like they don't know why. And I get it, because if you look at all the parts, this should be working, at least in some respect. Like when you have, Noel McLean going out there and dealing, when you have Brandon Sproat, when you have like these kids coming in out of nowhere and providing whatever pitching that they didn't have before, you should be able to win, and they haven't been able to.